man has been toying with the idea that he can recreate history in miniature.
Miniatures have been around forever. Specifically, though, I got involved with this through my father, which purchased toy soldiers for me when I was a child for getting halfway decent grades, which I probably never really did. So he would go out and buy box sets of Britons or whatever, and I became introduced to toy soldiers. From there, though, I was at a show, a model show, and this fellow showed me this new material. It was resin, and you could actually build your own figures. And this was very freeing for me.
Since then, Ken has made the most of his newfound artistic freedom by specializing in historic miniature dioramas.
I personally feel one of the fun things about building miniatures is not only the form and the creation of what it is you're building, but it's getting it right, putting all the detail in and telling a story with what it is you're doing. Whether they be military or civilian, it doesn't make any difference. I just love the costumes, I love the periods, I love what was going on back then. I am definitely a history buff.
Telling these diminutive stories takes imagination and dedication to details.
When I start a piece, I'll visualize it in my head as it's supposed to look. The twisting of the body, the shape, the clothes, the hand gestures, the detail on it. Detail is so important in historic miniatures. If you get it wrong, you will be called down on it. And it can be as small as something like knowing the number of stars on an epaulette for George Washington. I'll give you a good example of detail. One of the worst detailed figures I ever did was Elizabeth I in her Armada dress. Well, the Armada dress is covered, literally covered in pearls. Well, you can't make a pearl. So I had to find something to work. Well, I finally found Czechoslovakian glass seed beads that are minuscule, and I could use those as pearls. It takes a ridiculous amount of patience, which is kind of bizarre because I have no patience whatsoever. At my office, I want everything to be done now, but I come home here and it's like, I have all the time in the world.
Since patience is the key to his craft, you might wonder how long it takes Mezines to create a piece from start to finish.
On a normal day, I might spend maybe 2 hours a day doing something with this. So it could take, for one figure, it could take a month to 2 months to complete one. If I was actually doing this as a living, I'd say maybe 2 weeks for one figure.
Yet many of his figures take much longer. For example, this reproduction of a woman from an 1863 Godey's Ladies Book, which Ken created as a gift for his wife.
One of the interesting things about this particular diorama is the shawl that the woman is wearing. It is cherry blossoms. It took literally hundreds and hundreds of hours to paint all those small little cherry blossoms on there.
Mezines shared this painstaking yet rewarding process with us.
For me, it's a three-part process. You do the historical research on what it is you're going to do, which could take months. Then build a wire armature. Just take a coil of wire and you start bending it into the shape that you want, which would be no different than any other person that was building making a clay sculpture. From there, you add the putty on it. You can bend this then to make different shapes for this figure. From there, you take these tools and you start sculpting it to create a piece that looks like this. And by pushing the putty around, shaping, sanding, I have a couple of Dremel tools, and I also use some dental tools, and you can shape and carve the putty then. Once you complete that process, then you prime the figure and you start the painting process. And hopefully, you're going to end up with something that looks like this. Now, this is completely scratch built. There's no kit, there's nothing you can buy. You have to make the whole thing.
Each project seems to take on a life of its own, including his latest building extravaganza, Lincoln's caisson.
I thought this is perfect because the Emancipation Proclamation is, that we'll have the 150th anniversary of that. And of course, we're at the 150th anniversary of the Civil War. And I thought, well, this makes sense. It's the right time, right place. Let's go ahead and build this. So it got way out of hand. 82 figures later, 10 horses. The caisson itself, everything from the wheels, going up to the drapery, to the 12 American flags, the coffin, the plumes, Everything is scratch built on that. But I thought this is pretty neat. And I thought, well, I'm going to take it to the show in Chicago, and then afterwards I'm going to take it to Springfield, to the Lincoln Library, and see if they like it. You know, maybe they might want to put it on display.
When it's all said and done, Ken's artistic hobby is much more than an excuse to play with toys. It comes down to one simple philosophy.
No one's really stepped forward and done this. It's just such a labor of love.